Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the ADHD has just a touch of autism, where the true crime is as scary as the hauntings and unsolved cases. But the hosts never stay on topic for long. I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Em.
And I'm Meg.
Keep your arms, legs, and other extremities in the vehicle at all times, and enjoy the show. Oh, good morning.
There she is.
Hold on. I'm trying to pull up my iPad.
What am I holding on to?
There we go.
Hey, there we go.
I couldn't get it, like, my iPad to figure it shit out.
Right.
Yes.
So, today it's Mother's Day. We're recording this on Mother's Day, so happy belated Mother's Day to everybody out there.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. This is actually coming out, I can tell you right now.
It'll be July something.
Well, that's what I'm looking at, because I have the dates on here. No, August. First week of August.
Did we skip July?
Nope, July's already done. Nope, July's not done. Jesus Christ.
I was like, we just did June.
Right.
I'm skipped a month.
I'm sorry.
So confused.
You want to go get the light on the outside?
1 second.
Give me that.
Don't strangle yourself, please.
Right. I gave him my headphones, so I'm going to have to buy another pair of these. Thank you.
Welcome.
And there's light.
Let there be light. So, in honor of Pride Month, we did a bunch of gay-tastic serial killers. Which we did not like the serial killers. We do not like serial killers. We love the victims. We're doing these stories for the victims, mainly for the spooky content. But
You're not praising
but also the victims.
Serial killers.
Yeah, we're not praising the serial killers. So I figure in order to break up the death and destruction and mayhem, there's still a little bit of death. There's tiny deaths. Little deaths. We would do, as requested by our lovely community, on our Facebook group, which if you guys haven't joined it yet, it's TPW3M Podcast on Facebook. We've decided to do the haunted ABCs. And instead of going in traditional order like A, B, C, D, we're going to be doing out of order. And we've already done a picker wheel. And today we're doing the beautiful state of Georgia. Ooh.
Now, where in Georgia? Because I've been there.
You've been to Georgia?
Yes.
Okay. So.
Okay, so funny story. We didn't actually do the whole story mentioned. We didn't figure it out until way later, and as such, we'll be doing a later episode to cover more on this topic. So, keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times, and enjoy the show.
So, it keeps pulling up the university. I had the website pulled up last night, but I deleted them all.
Of course.
Georgia has two main cities of contact that people are thinking they're most known for, which is Atlanta and Savannah.
Definitely Savannah.
Definitely Savannah. It's a southeastern state. This is from Wikipedia. It's got beach, farmland, and mountains, which is part of the Appalachian. That's how it's pronounced. It is also home of the Georgia Aquarium and the Martin Luther King Jr. Memoriam. Let's see here. It's also home of Athens, which is a life-size Parthenon.
Yeah.
Which we're going to.
Okay.
I hope you don't have a problem with that. I know he doesn't. But a few things to know about Georgia is that most of the houses there are quite haunted.
Because they old as fuck.
Because they old as fuck. But
because those are the ones that survived Sherman's march to the sea.
yeah, which a lot of people don't know about.
I had a relation far because
great grandpappy,
cousin, uncle, or
Yeah.
something that was on that march, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that is
Also
something
had somebody
we don't want.
that fought in the Revolutionary War.
Ah,
All dad's side of the family.
In Savannah, they have a set of stairs that look like it's from the original movie, The Exorcist. It's at the end where you see, I think it's the priest walking down the stairs. And
Yes, so they called those the death stairs.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the one in Savannah, but it looks exactly like it.
It's the one in Savannah. I know what stairs you're talking about because those stairs are also haunted. But today we're going to be talking about a place known by locals as Buford Dam. Do you know where Buford Dam is? You requested this topic a few times.
Kind of.
Lake Lanier.
Not so.
Okay, we're going to be talking about Lake Lanier. Now, you guys may not know, but Lake Lanier, and in recent days, as Sissy here has informed me, what are they doing on Lake Lanier, Rachel?
They're building like a water slide or like a water park.
Absolutely not.
On one spot, there already is a water park there.
Mm-hmm.
But they're, I guess, on another part, they're building more water attractions.
Absolutely not.
No.
The
lake likes having her blood yearly, sometimes bi-yearly, or sometimes, quarterly.
Right.
Because people don't leave her alone.
People don't leave her alone. She has claimed quite many lives. There were, I couldn't remember the celebrities that had gone on Lake Lanier. There were two. One of them was in the 50s and 60s, right after it had finished being filled, because it's a man-made lake. Did you just send it to me? The Death Stairs.
It's actually called the Death Stairs.
Oh my god, they are called the Death Stairs. Stone Stairs of Death. You can't walk on it.
Yeah, you can.
Oh my god, you can. You just can't walk in the middle.
Yeah, there are literally signs that say, use at own risk.
Like, if you look at it
because it goes to
at
the one
night, looking down, it'll remind you of the movie The Exorcist.
Oh, okay.
We had to go up them. I think
Oh, there's the picture.
Either sideways holding onto the railing, or she just did hands and feet going all the way up because it was just easier.
Man, no, ma'am. Absolutely not. I'm gonna take a straight nope. So Lake Lanier is a reservoir in northern portion of Georgia. It was created by the completion of the Buford Dam on the Chattahoochee River in 1956. It took about 5 to 7 years to fill the whole lake. It's fed by the waters of the Chestatee River. I did have to look up how to pronounce these things because I ain't fucking up southern rivers. What?
So I just looked it up. So
The water park?
Yes, this was published March 16th, 2024.
Oh god. Okay, so this year.
It says, last summer, Margaritaville at Lanier Islands announced they were building the first water slide coaster. This slide is set to open this spring and will be named Apocalypso.
Ooh.
Why? You don't touch haunted. That's the movie we saw last night. I'm going to be going on Sydney's podcast. Our episodes are coming out a lot later. Sydney's does weeklies that she records that week. So ours are planned out like a month and a half advance. Hers are planned out, but they're just not recorded a month in advance like ours are. So if you want to see my reactions to the movie I watched last night, which was Tarot, go listen to her. It's the Death Card podcast. There are so many things wrong with that. Building a water park. We're going to go into the story now. So, fed by the waters of the Chestatee River, the remains of Oscarville were flooded in 1950 during the lake's construction. Named after the Confederate veteran and poet Sidney Lanier, Lake Lanier was completed in 1956. Oscarville is supposedly one of the multiple drowned towns beneath the lake. Local legend alleges Lake Lanier to be haunted. So this is the definition. Too long didn't read. Lake Lanier is definitely haunted. As somebody who has been to the entrance of Lake Lanier, who has never gone to Lake Lanier, I will never go to Lake Lanier. I made an offering, went on the highway, and left. Let's get into brass tacks. Oscarville, one of the many majority black towns in Georgia, is famous for being a central location in a series of violent crimes and racially motivated riots that happened in 1911 and 1912 that drove away 98% of its black residents in Forsyth County. It was formed in the 1800s during post-war Reconstruction. It was an agricultural community. Agricultural. Words are hard. Community for most of its history, and it was reported to be very prosperous. Many of the black residents had been freed from slavery after fighting in the Civil War. So this was post-Civil War, pre-World War II. Pre-World War I, actually, too. Though not all the residents were black, a large number were, and many of those residents had achieved higher economic growth than the other black communities of that time. I know they prohibit swimming.
Oh, no. The Margaritaville at Lanier Islands this was for last year, is not allowing visitors into the water as a way to prioritize safety. The popular water park at Lake Lanier announced it would keep the beach open but prohibit swimming because they had so many deaths last year.
Well, yeah, because Lake Lanier calls it's calling for blood.
Mm-hmm. So the fact, they're like, well, we'll keep the beach open, but you can't go in the water.
Right.
That's a little boring.
Well, I mean, the water wants your blood. It's going to have your blood.
Right.
So,
if she wants you, she's going to get you.
Right. So they've been freed from slavery. This is the late 1800s, right? And a large number of those residents had achieved higher economic growth than the other black communities at that time. By 1911, they had approximately 1,100 residents. 58 owned land. So in the South at that time, it was really rare for black landowners.
Yeah.
But the fact that they owned land, they owned businesses, they owned agricultural farms. I said it right that time. 109 residents rented farms, and many more worked as craftsmen in the nearby towns such as Cummings. Other residents were employed as cotton hands. So they still picked cotton on other farms. Oscarville was known for its poultry and poultry raising abilities.
I mean, chickens and eggs.
Chickens and eggs.
Good source of protein.
Where's my blanket? You bought me this beautiful stool, and I had my blanket, right? Can you get my other blanket? My legs are cold.
That's why I put sweatpants on.
Well, I'm not wearing. I'm shorts. I'm wearing shorts.
I mean, at least you're wearing bottoms
I mean,
this time.
normally I don't. Normally I don't give a shit because I'm in my own house. But that's why we don't put it on, because we get back feed. So, as I was saying, they raised chickens. So, you and me talked before about my next door neighbor, Alice.
Yes.
So, Alice was on the phone with her sister, and Miss Alice had died in, God, she was 105 by the time she passed away, I think. 105, 103, something like that. She'd already passed 100. She was old. But
A lot of things that in those years.
oh, man. But when they flooded Oscarville, she was on the phone with her sister and the phone went dead. And that's how she knew that there were people buried down there, is because there were a lot of people who didn't leave the town. So this is where we're starting to get into the...
Not just that, but a lot of them didn't know it was even happening because they didn't tell anybody.
They did. However, I did dive into some research. It was published in community newspapers.
But also...
which were destroyed by fires, but... Sorry, go ahead.
But how many people could actually read?
Correct. So, we're going to get into that. I promise. So, right before the 1912 conflicts, so this was the beginning of 1911, 1912, racial tensions in the area remained high from the 1906 American race riot. If everybody doesn't remember, that's when the Civil War had ended and everybody was trying to get freedom from slavery, and the North and the South were definitely still divided, but they were having sit-ins and everything like that before the 1950s big race riots.
And developed that horrible club that still exists today.
Which I am so angry about that, let me tell you. There was a guy walking around with a t-shirt yesterday when we went to the store to go get my present that had, it says proud member of the blank, blank, blank. And I was like, why are you wearing that in public?
Because, first of all, it's Texas, but also because they don't care.
I'm really glad I didn't wear my gay as fuck shirt out.
They're no longer keeping the inside voices inside.
They should.
They've been letting it out. Where do you think what the Proud Boys are?
No.
They're part of that situation too.
I hate this.
Me too. Anyways.
Moving on. We're going to get into some very uncomfortable topics, but nothing super grotesque, nothing super trigger warning. You
might need more coffee after this.
I might. I already have I have my Stitch mug. Rachel has a matching mug. It holds 2 cups of giant coffee in here.
Yeah, well, like we said, words are hard.
Words are hard. So, after the 1906 race riot, in 1912, several white farmers in the area were under economic stress, rightfully so, because there was a plight in the South in 1912, which I did look up. Some of the wheat and some of the cotton had been affected. They blamed it on the black landowners, not on the plight. No, not on the fact that a literal drought came into certain areas. No, not on that. On black farmers.
Not because of the environment.
No, never.
Their peers.
Right. So, quite a few months prior to the events at Oscarville, a dispute between a black boy and a white girl at a peach orchard in nearby Plainville had turned into an attempted lynch mobbing by several of several black men. Black residents of Plainville resisted, and the situation escalated into a shootout, which resulted of a death in the white share of Plainville. So it's Plainville, Cummings, Oscarville, and one other town. in that little area. There is a lack of information regarding the 1912 conflicts due to a lack of records. Not because they didn't keep them, but because they were stolen or involved in a fire.
But were they voluntarily stolen or set on fire?
Yes.
Because that's a little suspicious that those are the only
No,
records that...
They kept meticulous records, but it was at the time of the... I'll get to that in this next little bit. Including the beating of Grant Smith, the lynching of Rob Edwards, and the following Night Rider attacks. Forsyth County newspaper funded in 1908, but has no available archives before 1917. And that's because of the Night Rider attacks, which I'm going into right now. September 5th, 1912. This is the only trigger warning I will give you. It involves rape and abuse. A white woman stated that 2 black men tried to grape her and stated that she woke to find a man in bed beside her. The men were scared off by the arrival of her mother, supposedly. 5 men were arrested by the Forsyth County Sheriff in connection to the case. This got out to the local black communities. A local preacher, a man of the word, Grant Smith, made an appeal to the sheriff stating that all 5 men detained needed to be released, claiming that there was insufficient evidence to charge them. Then stated that Ellen was in a relationship with one of the men, upon being caught with him, reported that he had raped her. This is called a threadbare lie. This was very common in the 1800s and 1900s. These comments made by the preacher made the local white community pissed. So Smith was mobbed on the steps of the local courthouse, beaten and horsewhipped. I had to look up what horsewhipped was.
But if the situation had been reversed and it nothing would have ever happened.
Nothing would have happened. No, you are correct. Did you know what horsewhipping was?
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, for our listeners who don't, I did look up the definition because I had to look up what it meant because I thought it meant an actual horse and a whip. It is not. It is a riding crop.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short whip without a lash used for horse riding and part of family tools used as riding aids.
Yep. And so the person stands there and lashes at them.
Yeah. So it's used in the BDSM community a lot for play. I don't like that kind of stuff, so we're just going to keep moving on. He sustained life-threatening injuries, but he survived. I did try to locate records on whether or not he had pressed charges, but unfortunately, all of those records were missing due to a fire. A few days later, on September 13th, a white woman by the name of May Crow was found unresponsive in the woods outside Oscarville, a resident of Big Creek. 18 or 19, they weren't sure of her age. She had been raped, battered, beaten, unconscious, barely breathing, and left for dead, half-dressed under a pile of leaves. May, although alive, when found, remained in a coma for 2 weeks before dying due to her injuries. Due to length of time and lack of living witnesses, it is rare that a culprit will ever be found in her unfortunate demise. However, during this era, it was commonplace to search nearby black communities for the quote-unquote supposed perpetrator.
Or they just nab whoever they feel like nabbing because they have a vendetta against them and blame it on them.
That's pretty much essentially what it was. Hold on. The headphones were rubbing up against... I don't like it when light rubbing touches my arm.
Yeah.
My headphones kept touching my arm, just that feather. It freaks me the fuck out, man. So I put in a quotations, can we say racial profiling?
Pretty much.
Searchers at the scene found a small handheld mirror that belonged to Ernest Knox, a 16-year-old black resident in Cumming. Knox was soon arrested and subjected to mock lynching, and then coerced a confession out of him. So they essentially pretended that they were going to lynch him in the town square and got him to confess to the murder.
Because whenever you get a confession on the point of death or, extreme violence and pain, it's always such a truthful confession. They're literally telling you whatever you want to hear just so that way the pain stops.
Right. That's how a good chunk of serial killers operated. Tell me this and I'll let you live.
Well, not just that, but it's also how, the Spanish Inquisition,
Christopher Columbus,
putting people on the rack and stretching them until they confess to quote unquote heinous crimes because they're just wanting the pain to stop.
Pretty much.
Picture of us.
No, it's one of my kids' birthdays. It's Cheyenne's birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Cheyenne.
Yeah, she's gonna hear this about a month late, but that's okay. That's all right. She loves her mama. I love her too. She has a new stepmama. I love that. So this upset the what happened to May Crow upset the white community, and they formed a mob outside the courthouse where he was detained. In order to keep him alive, the sheriffs secretly transported him out of the jail into another jail in Atlanta.
Yeah, because they had a job to have a fair trial and keep him alive until the trial.
Right. But following his arrest, they found four more people, to arrest with him as his accomplices. Allegedly, it was Oscar Daniel, 18, Oscar's sister, Jane, 22, Jane's husband, Rob Edwards, aka Big Rob, 24, and Ed Collins, no age. While the five awaited trial, another mob of 2,000 people formed outside the county courthouse in Atlanta. The deputy tried to hold them off, and the sheriff testified that he had gone home and had, and direct quote, no idea of the state of unrest.
Oh, he knew. He just had somebody, put a little cash in his hands to look the other way.
Yeah. What?
I said, can anyone say bullshit?
Yeah. So, the mob finally gained access. You asshole. You just bankrupted her monopoly. The mob finally gained access to the cells, finding Big Rob first. Beat him with crowbars, tied a noose around his neck, and then shot him execution style.
Ooh.
He never had a chance.
Because he was a big guy. He was built like a brick house, they said. They then dragged his body out of the jailhouse with the noose around his neck into the court square. After this, more rounds were fired into Big Rob's body from the onlookers. So he was tied in the court square.
Yeah.
So, trial. This is all before Oscarville got, as it were. Oscar Daniel and Ernest Knox were found guilty of rape and murder of May Crow. Jane was acquitted of all her charges, stating that she couldn't have possibly raped her or murdered her.
I have a feeling she probably got thrown in with the rest of them because, in that terminology of that time, was she probably got mouthy and was standing up for her sibling and
her husband, yeah.
You must be guilty too, and hauled her along with them.
Oscar and Ernest were sent to death by hanging, which was illegal at this time. So hangings became illegal right after the Civil War.
Yeah.
At this point, the judge ordered that the hangings take place behind a blind that was in the court square. However, the night before the execution was set to take place, the blind was burned to the ground.
Shocking, but not shocking.
Leaving the gallows unscathed.
Because that time period, unfortunately.
Yeah. The following day, Oscar and Ernest had died, drawing a crowd of 8,000 people. A piece of rope was kept in the original court records until 1987, at which point it mysteriously disappeared. This is why I couldn't find a bunch of stuff. I had to go to 6 different websites to get the information. And I rented a book on Kindle.
No.
At the library, so that way I could research some of this stuff. If you would like to know the book, please let us know on our Facebook. Starting on the day of May Crow's funeral, groups of white men calling themselves the Night Riders carried out the group attacks on horseback under the cover of night in the black communities of Forsyth County. Oscarville was one of the communities. Firebombs were thrown into the local church, which was the community meeting hub, which everybody knew that. Many residents died during these attacks. Most involved arson and happened regularly over the course of several months. The residents fled to Gainesville, which was nearby just across the Chattahoochee River.
You can't say the name without singing the song.
I know. I was doing that all day yesterday. Not yesterday. Was it Friday when you came home when I was doing the research? And you saw me just kind of bobbing here?
It was Friday.
It was Friday? I'm sitting there doing research, and every time the word Chattahoochee came up, my autistic brain went, Chattahoochee never looked like me. Learn how to learn how well. Not about living and a little about love. Love that song. Don't love this story, though, because it just gets worse.
Of course it does.
In 1912, still in 1912, there were 1,098 black residents in Forsyth County, 10% of the total population. Due to the Night Riders, most of the county during September and October left. Within a few years, only 2% of the black community remained, while most of the 98% was settling in the northern part of the Great Migration, which was the northern states, the northern route.
Because it was safer for them up there.
Mm-hmm. Sad, but true. I'm glad I'm white passing. I do have to say that. I'm very glad I'm white passing, because nobody pays me no never mind, but they don't service people who are darker, and it sucks.
I know.
Because I'm too white for the white, or I'm too white for the Latins, and I'm too Latin for the whites. Meanwhile, I'm married to a white boy over here.
Call me Casper.
He's reflective. So, the state of unrest that was Oscarville was not unknown for in the South, for it was common for there to be white towns trying to eradicate the black communities.
Yep.
Which we already knew. But due to the emergent state of the situation of the Night Riders, most black owners attempting to flee had no choice but to sell their land for less than value. While others, unable to sell their land, were unable to get compensation before fleeing.
Mm-hmm.
So more often when the families fled and they hadn't sold their land, their homes and livestock were burned. So instead of taking the livestock and just being like, free steak.
Because the white men and the surrounding area deemed that the livestock was tainted.
Right. So, white residents in nearby towns would use adverse possession laws to take the abandoned land without paying the black owners for it.
Yep.
So they would take the land, burn it down to the ground, and then rebuild. And it's like, why not just keep everything? But the more I read into it, the more disturbed I got, and it just made me sick to my stomach.
The easiest way to say it is they viewed everything as being tainted,
Mm-hmm.
and so they would just burn everything to the ground and then rebuild where it's not tainted.
Cleansed by fire.
Don't even get me started on that shit.
It's complete bullshit because,
It's genocide.
Yes.
well, not just that, but there is no tainting unless, because the only tainting that was happening was the spilling of innocent blood.
Right. Definitely.
Then the ground was tainted, but just because somebody of a different race, ethnicity, somebody you didn't like lived there, doesn't make a place be tainted.
I mean, we talked yesterday about chicken being tainted because I didn't like this one restaurant because it has no flavoring on the chicken at all. It's the pastiest fried chicken I've ever had in my entire life.
Though.
Huh?
That's different though. That's not being seasoned.
Right. That's unseasoned. It was made by unseasoned Caucastic people. But I'm saying, like, it was probably made by chicken fuckers. And the reason I'm saying this is because food will be tainted by those food fuckers. My friend who was a chef, he would tell me all the time he must have fucked the cow because the cow has no flavor. It has no taste. It's been fucked out of it. And it's been an ongoing joke in my group of friends from back home. I must have been a blank fucker, whatever. Because, everything's been removed. But
it's a bland diet.
Yes, it's a very bland diet. So all those night riders were just fucking chickens and cows. That's what I'm going to blame it on.
Okay.
They had to get rid of the evidence. They were fucking the chickens and cows. I had to make some sort of humor in this. This story pissed me off so badly.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And
You have an eyelash in your eye now?
No, I have a hive right underneath my eye.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Ew, no. Oh, no. No. No, oh, no. What is it, the H2O? Oh, no. So, following the fleeing of the residents to the surrounding towns, they were sold off to the government. So that land in Oscarville was sold off to the government. Due to the influx of the population growing in these counties, water was needed.
Mm-hmm.
So they started constructing a dam in 1947. It was to be situated on the Chattahoochee River, which regulated the flooding and created the formation of Lake Lanier. Oscarville and its parks and houses and cars remained, however, was flooded over in 1956. It was one of the many black-owned towns that were buried beneath Lake Lanier. There's a total of 4 towns that are buried under Lake Lanier because of its size.
Oh, wow.
Over 500 deaths happened on the lake itself, but we're going to get into that. Local legend claims that it's haunted. As a medium and as a psychic, it is indeed haunted. Lake Lanier asked for blood.
They didn't move the bodies
No.
from the cemetery, so yeah, of course it's going to be haunted.
Some. They moved some of the bodies, not all of them.
There's still enough bodies in there that
it creates a level of spookies. As we're going to get to that, by the way. I have notes from Geosaurus, so we're going to get into that in just a second. This is due to the high amounts of drownings and boating accidents that has occurred since its creation in 1956. Over 500 deaths between 56 and 21. 200 deaths alone between 94 and 2020.
Oh, Jesus.
The underwater debris counts towards the drowning rate because there's still churches, trees, cars, parks, houses, and you said it, dead bodies. The homes were previously not demolished before the lake was formed into lake, creating treacherous underwater hazards. The local town cemeteries were not relocated prior to flooding. The only ones that were relocated were the ones that were in the large mausoleum-looking type ones.
It would not have taken them that long
No.
to, like, bulldoze the houses and the buildings. Like,
Right.
it's bad enough you're leaving the bodies, but, like, why not take out the trees and the buildings too? Because
Well, believe it or not, the army came through and did that. But we're going to get into that in a second. Sorry, honey. Fashion your shit. In 1987, a civil rights march called the Brotherhood March took place in Forsyth and was led by Hosea Williams. It's a very pretty name, Hosea. Locals and counter-white protesters reportedly threw rocks at the demonstrators.
of course there was white counter protesters. There's always white counter protesters.
This was covered by Oprah before she rose to fame.
Okay.
The demonstration drew statewide attention to the expulsions of Oscarville, causing an inquiry into the state records.
Good.
Which is when they found out that some of them were missing due to fires. This didn't lead to any repartition of land.
Of course not.
So today, Oscarville is famous through stories from word of mouth and local legend of the lake being haunted and craving blood from more victims than it consumed in its insurrection. Because when it was created, there were 25 people that went quote unquote missing.
Mm-hmm.
You and I both know they didn't go missing.
No.
They're still there.
That and there's I don't know if this is true, but back in the day, they would pick the least liked person when creating a dam and wall them up inside the dam.
That's a fable. That's not.
But how many deaths occurred while they were building the dam, though?
A lot. But I don't know if it has to do with the spooky nature of it, but here are some spooky notes from the ever lovely Geosaurus. We love Geosaurus. We follow her for Spooky Lake Month. That's the lady I showed you that goes, hello there.
It's Spooky Lake Month.
It's Spooky Lake Month. Posted on 10/29 of 2021, part 35 of her haunted hydrology series, Spooky Lake Month. She dove into some of the lake's haunted history. Located in the foothills of Georgia, check. There have been deaths, more than 675 boating deaths since opening in 1956. Check. Both accidents and drownings are the main causes, but occasionally, this is not what I pulled up in my research, but I did look it up after I watched it. There are very strange disappearances. One reason is the amount of debris and rubble at the bottom of the lake, making it an underwater obstacle course. The hazards became obvious when the lake experienced a drought, which exposed some of the obvious underwater trees.
Mm-hmm.
However, how it was created is how it got its haunting nature, starting with the Trail of Tears in the 1800s, removing the Cherokee Nation from their homeland. So, we already talked about the fact that the town was haunted. Now we know for a fact it was cursed.
It was stolen land twice over.
Right. In 1912, 1,100 families owned land in the Forsyth County, which we already talked about. The the Buford Dam, not beautiful.
It was not beautiful.
It was not beautiful. Began after the town was forced to flee in late 1912. An Army Corps of engineers was responsible for clearing the land in preparation for the dam,
which they failed to do at the clearing of.
They were supposed to include removing trees, homes, churches, and graves. There were 30 cemeteries in Oscarville and the surrounding towns. They moved 20 of those cemeteries, but still believe that there are people in unmarked graves and historical burial sites that are still buried in the lake below and that were never considered.
They just went, this is fine.
Right. It took 5 years to fill the lake to its entirety, which displaced 250 families and 15 businesses. The land visible on the lake today is actually the long-lost peaks of the Georgia foothills, which is why it can be such a dramatic drop when you're swimming in the water. Don't swim in the water.
Please don't swim in the water.
The tragic history, plus the mysterious deaths, have fueled urban legends surrounding the lakes, not to mention the 27 bodies that have never been recovered since disappearing into Lake Lanier. Geosaurus has rated it 7 out of 10 spookies. I rate it as a medium 9 out of 10.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it's like 10 out of 10.
It's 9 out of 10. I've been to some spookier places, but let me tell you, I did not feel welcome there as a white passing person. And I told them, lo siento por toda mi vida, se hablas mucho español. And they went, what?
They're like,
Heh.
You're not speaking English. I don't know what you're speaking, but
right.
It's in English.
So I let the spirits know that I may look white, but that is my father's problem, not mine. You met my father. Blonde hair. Well, blonde hairs. He's got like 4.
Time has not been kind for his hair.
Starting to look like Homer Simpson.
He is starting. No, Homer's stupid. My dad's smart.
Don't.
But when I went to Lake Lanier, it was in, I want to say 2007, 2006, 2007. Driving cross country. My mom thought I was going to Bible camp.
But she won't know, won't hurt her.
If she listens to this podcast, she'll know, but it's fine. I don't think she will. She hasn't read any of my books either, so I don't think she's going to listen to this. Right. I left an offering of moonshine. I went to the local Publix, got some moonshine. You know they have moonshine in shooter bottles?
Yes.
I did not know this when I went there. And it was kind of funny because I was like, are these? And he goes, yep, knock you on your ass. And I was like, I will take 2 packs, please. Thank you. And I put all of...
They also come in like little tiny little mason jars.
They were in little tiny mason jars. They were the little shooters. And I left all 12 of them at the front, for the zodiac signs. I put 12 out. And I said, I don't know if you can hear me, but I would like to pay my respects before I continue on my journey. Because I was going to Florida to go visit a friend. And then going back to California. Because it was, the summer. I had nothing to do. When I tell you the pain and the hurt and just the unimaginable just guilt.
Anger?
No, guilt. It was just, I felt guilty just being there.
Oh, I was talking about the anger just rolling off.
Oh, them. Oh, yeah, they were super angry. But, I mean, like, they liked the moonshine. They wanted them open. They wanted it on the thing, so I did, but...
Because they can't drink, otherwise they can't open it themselves, so, I mean...
No, but... Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can hear this.
No. You
can hear it on our end. We're in the middle of a thunderstorm right now.
Oh, okay.
So
But man.
All you can hear on my side right now is the pouring thunderous rain, so...
Take me with you! She, in fact, did not take me with her. Rude.
Right, but, I mean, I can hear it not cracking the window, but it's hitting the window with such a force, and it's the window on our back patio.
Yeah.
And the next door neighbor's car alarm keeps going off.
I don't know.
He's looking up right now if we have hail coverage.
Okay. That's a good plan.
Okay. Yay! So, you were eating. That's why I cut you out. Because you're muted. But,
That's fine. I mean, I had muted myself, so.
Yeah. Aw. Dawn listened to the podcast. She says it's fine. We ran into yesterday's episode for H.H. Holmes. There was a total of 7 minutes of dead air, 45 seconds here and there. Kind of that were just just like that. No sound, no nothing. And I was like, I thought I fixed that. Well, apparently I didn't while I was editing.
I mean, that's the first time it's happened, so.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, when that happened, you were editing 3 episodes that day, and you were starting to fall asleep.
I was.
This is true. So, I mean...
I was very tired.
All right, back on topic.
Yes. So, Lake Lanier, it's been widely known, Lake Lanier is super fucking haunted. There are locals that have said far too many things to consider it outside otherwise. Same instance goes for haunted lake in Santa Cruz. You remember that one?
I do.
We did not go there. You wanted to go there. I refused.
I mean, as people would say, I do white people shit.
Yes, he very much is the white person in the house running up the stairs. Meanwhile, I'm the Chicana running. I'm the chingada. I am the chingada. I am running out of the house with the chanclitas and the fucking, cast iron pan going, ¡ay, Dios mío! You know.
Because you can't leave the cast iron behind.
You can't. You just can't. Meanwhile, this bitch is running up the stairs going, oh my god, don't get me! You don't go running up the stairs. You run out of the house.
Yeah, but I'm saying, oh, don't get me because, come here, fucker.
So, there was this haunted lake in Santa Cruz, kind of under the same thing, where it leads out into a straight onto the Pacific Ocean. Atlantic Pacific, yeah. I had to do the north, south, east, and west thing.
Never eat shredded wheat.
Never eat soggy waffles. So, when it comes to that lake, you could camp near it. You can wade by it. You do not go further than knee height. It was very well known in that area. You do not do that. And I think that's where they have all the lazy river stuff. Does it work? Was that kiddo?
Mm-hmm.
My adopted son is in the barracks.
He's asking if everyone is good.
So, I remember, I think I was, 17 or 18. There was a girl who went out in an inner tube, and they found her inner tube.
Just didn't find her.
No. She was a competitive swimmer. She could swim just fine. But in that area, nobody survived.
Yeah.
Like, you can go on boats and everything, and you'd be fine. But there'd always be that one person that would just... And they said...
always the one.
Right, and they said it was because there were sinkholes in the area. Because it is California, there are tectonic plates that do shift. And there would be sinkholes in lakes. And they would be telling people to be careful not to swim in those areas. But people still were dumb enough to swim in them anyways.
And it's really creepy watching a video of a sinkhole appear and just, in a body of water and just sucks down the trees around it. Entirely freaky.
Sorry, Rachel. Send
It's
that,
fine.
send that to the tamale chat.
I am. So this is specifically meant for water. Like, to be able to flow without flooding.
I think it's not doing its job correctly.
So, if you decide to go to Margaritaville, if you decide to go to Lake Lanier, if you decide to pay into all of that hype, go to Margaritaville, all that stuff, stay on the shore. Don't
go in the water.
Don't go in the water. This is the worst episode of Jaws.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
And you don't even have to worry about the wildlife, which are scary enough.
We're gonna, you know what? We're doing an episode of cryptids, and we're going to have, actually, we have 2 cryptologists that we are friends with. So our librarian studies cryptoids.
I'm excited.
So I told her in the next couple of weeks we were going to discuss cryptids. We could probably do that the next episode.
Okay.
Yeah. I did not have fun researching this.
I figured you didn't.
It was not a fun time. I was glad I learned something about it, though. The fact that it wasn't just one town, it was 4. And it just saddened me even more. But that being said, that is the story of Lake Lanier and her thirst for blood.
I would say great talk, but it was not a great talk.
It was not a great talk. I am not happy. But that being said, I hope you guys had a good time today. I hope you learned something new. Just remember to keep being spooky. Stay safe. Wear your floaters.
Please stay safe.
Absolutely. Wear your floaters. Wear your sunscreen. And don't go in Lake Lanier. Until next time, we'll see you next time. Okay, bye!
Bye.
Next time on the Pandemonium Witches.
It's not so much serial killer as true crime.
But we do love us a good try.
A trying.
A trime. Look at the crime of trime.
Christina's family did have a concern about the marriage, though. Ronald joined them for the entirety of their honeymoon.
What the fuck?
Something happened.
Something had to have happened.
An official autopsy found traces of codeine in her stomach, but her ultimate cause of death was declared as a drowning.